What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Trigger Warning, the Trigger Warning podcast. I'm your host, Kim Osorio, and it's a special episode because guess what? I am here today by myself. There's no TT. Shout out to TT Torrez, my co-host. She couldn't be here today. So I just decided to wing it and talk to you all alone. And there's much to talk about, but let me say this. Being up here alone feels like a therapy session. I feel like we're gonna have 1 full hour of therapy. And I wanna start that therapy by saying today, before I came here, this is so personal, I don't know how I'm just gonna get into this. I waxed myself. Ladies of the Bronx, have you ever bikini waxed yourself? I know that's very personal, and I don't know why I decided to start with that, but that is what is fresh on my mind. And so it's an intimate process. Like first of all, the wax was way too hot, and I did it. So I warmed up the wax. I went there. Yes, I did. Not because I wanted to, but because things got so hectic for me, and I was so busy that I didn't schedule with my personal wax person. And I love her. Her name is Kimmy. I'm not obsessed with myself finding somebody to wax me with the same name. But she is the only person that can wax me. And I know a lot of my friends actually say they do laser hair removal. I'm not that hairy, so I haven't felt the need to do that. But for women of a certain age, can I just say this? So I've heard you have to do that. If you're going to do the laser hair removal down there, apparently you have to do it before you start turning gray. Not that I've turned gray, as you can see. I touch up my roots a little bit, but I'm still pretty much there. I don't want to jinx it. But apparently you have to do this. I don't know if I'm pulling this information out of the air. I should probably Google it. I have my phone right in front of me. I've been told once you go gray, you can't do that. I don't even understand the philosophy behind why you can't get laser hair removal once you're gray. I don't even know. But I wax. My wax person was unavailable, or I didn't schedule in time because things are so hectic, so I decided to do it myself. And you really get to know yourself when you do that. So I guess go in the comments and tell me if you're as crazy as I am. Make sure I'm on my YouTube page at Kim Osorio Media, so make sure you go in there. So tell me if you've waxed yourself or if I'm just a straight up lunatic, because that's what I was doing. But I had a great weekend. If you guys follow me on Instagram, and Instagram I'm different. I'm at Kim Osorio 1. No A's, Osorio, the number 1. If you follow me on Instagram, that was a shameless plug, you should follow me. You will know that this weekend I attended Chris Rock's 60th birthday party. Shout out to Chris Rock. It was an amazing event. It was around the same time as SNL 50, and I don't know if you guys have watched the SNL 50 that's on Peacock. I'm a huge SNL fan. I've been watching it for as long as I can remember, and everyone was in town. So I went to this very fabulous birthday party over the weekend in the rain, parked on the street, walked to the event where it was at. It was at the Crane Club, which is, I think it's an exclusive members only club. Let me say this, sidebar. So I am a member of one of these clubs. I'm not gonna say which one, but those of you who know me know that, not this one that I went to over the weekend, but you know that I pay to be a member of one of these clubs. And the reason why I do that is because a few years ago, it was a great place, not having an office in the city, to have meetings. So I had a company that I was working with, a tech company. They had a budget out the wazoo, so they paid for my membership to this exclusive club. I absolutely don't use this anymore. So I think I need to stop paying. It's in the city, and there are a number of these clubs in the city that you can go to or you can pay to be a member of, where you scan your little membership, they let you in, and usually when you go there, it's like a networking thing. But in the club that I am a member of, which was a place that, listen, I'm just gonna say it, fine, it's a Soho House. It's a Soho House. I was a member of the Soho House. I've been a member for a few years. Years before I was a member, I used to go there and have meetings when people had their exclusive access. You go to either Soho or Dumbo. Now when I go, I feel like I'm the oldest person in the room. So I'm looking around usually and I'm like, I think people are going to a different club. So I say all that to say I go to this club where they're having this party over the weekend, and clearly this is one of the clubs that people have moved to. I'm still at the club that no one goes to anymore. So I go to the club and everybody was at his party. Every comedian. First of all, I don't think I've ever been to a party with Madonna. Madonna was there with her very young boyfriend. Or I don't know how old he is, but I should probably Google that and find out. But so that was a little weird. So Madonna's in the party, right? Beck performed for the party. And I posted a little clip of that on my Instagram. I guess it's gone now. I'll post it again. White people love Beck. And yes, there were a lot of white folk at the party. Famous white folk. So who did I see? Who did I see at this party? I saw Ant-Man, which is, when I go to these events now, I am like, who's here that I can tell my kids about? That's my first agenda. Who can I sneak a photo of for my kids? So of course, I'm looking at Ant-Man, like, well, there's Ant-Man. But I mean, everybody was up in there. You had Dave Chappelle, you had David Spade, Adam Sandler. I mean, people come out to support Chris because Chris is a great guy. He's got a lot of friends. Obviously, they're doing SNL 50. Everyone was in the room. But I'm often asked as a journalist whether I'm ever starstruck. And I'm like, no, because a lot of times when I go interview people, I've known these people, I've come up with these people. Well, let me just say this. I went to this party this weekend, and there was someone there that I have never met that, yes, I was starstruck. Because growing up for me, my person that I used to watch on TV all the time, that I memorized his stand-up, that I know all of his movies, that I watch all of his movies when I'm like home on Saturday afternoons or on the weekends, Eddie Murphy. So Eddie Murphy was in attendance, and I met Eddie Murphy. So that is, now I have this starstruck moment that I feel good about being able to tell people when they ask me on interviews. So they'll say to me, hey, Kim, have you ever been in the same room or met somebody and I met Eddie Murphy. I feel like that's my big celebrity idol, right? I'm never really wowed by people in the room, but I mean, it's Eddie Murphy. It's Eddie Murphy. So Eddie Murphy was there. And so like there were a lot of other people there. We just interviewed Kenan Thompson for another podcast that was on. Kenan was there from SNL. I saw, a friend of mine said, do you realize that you just told David Spade to move? I mean, he had his hand like on the couch where I wanted to sit. I didn't tell him to move. I was just kind of like, watch your hand with my eyes. I told him with my eyes, like, move your hand. But like, it was crowded. But it was a great event. Everyone was in there. People had a great time. People were dancing. And I think that, you know, so let me differentiate. This was a high-profile celebrity birthday party for Chris. Happy birthday to him once again. But for some reason, people think when you talk about these parties, right, now the word like celebrity parties it's tainted. It's tainted now. Everyone's like, what happens at the party? How was the party? It was a birthday party at a club. It's not like we had to go in there and sign an NDA. None of that crazy, freaky stuff was happening. It was all reported. Everyone had their cameras out filming, taking photos. So did I say that Kim Kardashian was there? So for a hot second, like it was like she came in the room and then she left, like real quick. So it was like you had to catch a glimpse of her. She had on a fur coat. She's very small. I snuck a little photo because my youngest daughter, Kiana, loves Kim K. She always has loved Kim K. So I snuck a little, like I was, filming my friends and myself. And then I like flashed the camera just so I can send her a screenshot and like, look, Kim K's in this party. So you do not have to sign an NDA. You do not have to there was a moment when Dave Chappelle was talking and he told people, and I didn't have my phone out. Like I don't want to be the person like taping everybody and making people feel uncomfortable. So it's not like I have my phone out. But you take a couple of shots just to like memorialize yourself on that day that you were in the room. But there was a point, and there were, some high profile celebrities up front. Amy Schumer told Chris, like she introed before Beck came out, or she introduced Beck. And then I believe Dave came on, and when he started talking, he asked everyone to put their cameras away and just live in the moment. And not too many people had their cameras out at that point, but it was a very crowded room. And I'm kind of like, well, you can't really stop people from filming these moments, right? Like, how do you guys feel about that? Do you think it's inappropriate or it violates someone's privacy? Like, people were having a good time. It was a crowded room. It's a public place. It's a big time party. Everyone's in the room. I'm kind of like, why are you asking people to put their phones away? I mean, he didn't say anything that was like, oh my God, did he just say that? No, I think he was just asking. And it's different. It might be just by habit, right? Because when you go to a Dave Chappelle or Chris Rock show and they're doing stand-up, you have to put your phones in those little like pouches that you can't open. I hate those little pouches. I don't take my phone, or I don't take photos when I'm at those stand-up, big shows, but I've gotten my phone in a number of times. Like, there's ways to sneak your phones into this event. The thing is, you really can't take your phone out because it's like security Nazis are walking down the aisles of Radio City Music Hall or wherever these shows are, and they're waiting for someone to just take out their phone. So you gotta shut your phone off or put the volume down really low and then hide your phone. But I'm talking to the Bronx community out there. Y'all know we're not putting our phones away. We're not doing it. I'm not putting my phone in that little pouch. I can't get to my phone. I want to be able to text who I want to text, or answer my phone in the bathroom, or have a conversation. So I've snuck my phone in a few times. I don't think I can really tell you guys how to do it, because then it's going to get like, all right, look, I don't know. I don't have that many people watching, or maybe I have a lot of people watching, but I have 2 phones. So what I do is, when I walk through the security, I put one of my phones in the pouch. And then the other phone I have on me, I pass it through. Okay, don't sound like it's that covert. I get my damn phone in. I mean, if you can sneak a photo in one of these events, then good for you. I don't care that much about sneaking the photos, but whatever. I went on a tangent. I had to, because like the moment of like, everybody put your phones away, when really nobody really had their phone out. But I think it was like they were still filming. I think it's just like habit. Like, they don't want you to film them if they're speaking. Maybe they'll say something, and I can understand this, right? Like, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm kind of like going through it in my head, like, okay, well, if he says something that's out of pocket, it could end up on a blog. you're on the shade room for saying something. Comedians are very loose and, you know, unfiltered with their speaking. So I get it. He wanted everyone to put their phone away, and they also like to be in control of the content that gets out there. But I definitely snuck a photo or two of Eddie Murphy because I had to. I had to show my kids. I didn't post it, but I got to show my kids. I met Eddie Murphy. So that was a really good time. I think it was in, like, I'm sure it was in Page Six, and I'm sure there are things that I missed that night. But no freak offs. Just because you're at a party with celebrities late at night doesn't mean you're part of like a freak off. I can't even say party these days. I feel like that's crazy. Every time I say party, people are like, what happened at the party? Who was at the party? I wasn't going to talk about this till later, but I guess we should talk a little bit about Diddy because that's where it came from. This Diddy case is so big that it has changed literally conversations about celebrity culture. Now that I think about it, it's really, and look, the trial will be coming up in May. I actually, at that party, I had a conversation with someone that knew him, and they brought up the Peacock documentary that I did because if you guys, I know that I've talked about this on Trigger Warning before. TT and I have obviously talked about the Diddy case. I think the first time that we even sat down for this show, it was because we were both so shocked by all of the allegations that were coming out against Puffy. It's been a crazy year for news related to this Puff Daddy, Diddy, whatever you want to call him, case. It's been a crazy year. So I've been following this case since, well, look, I've been following Diddy's career for a very long time, since I've been following anyone's career, since I've been a writer. So this, to me, I feel like this Diddy case is the biggest news that's come out of this culture in a long time, at least, right? From what I can remember, my memory is bad these days, but this case is like something else. And, people are split down the middle. There's people who believe that he did those things, and there's people who will not believe it. I just had a conversation today about, well, even if some of that stuff is true, I don't believe this. I don't believe he, sexually assaulted men, right? Like, there are so many allegations in the Diddy cases, and I say cases because they're plural. I don't know what to believe anymore. And I'm not saying that I believe everything. What I'm saying is I'm looking at the cases and I'm studying, I'm reading the cases, I'm reading the allegations. I hope that it's not true. I don't know why people think sometimes when I do these things or podcasts and I'm asked questions and I talk about it, I don't know why people think I want him to be guilty. That is not the case. I'm just reading the terrain, and I'm seeing what I'm seeing, and I'm looking at what the prosecution has as evidence or what we may know to have been true based on just having information over the years. So I do not wish any ill on Diddy. I think just by reporting on this case, it's very controversial. So, and like I said, I've talked about this before. When people ask me to speak about these type of topics, whether I know the person or not, I am a professional that would speak on that. So I was interviewed for the Peacock documentary that came out on Diddy. Now, this is controversial right now because Diddy has filed a lawsuit against NBC for that documentary. And the allegations, I think it's a defamation case, but it's what is it, like a couple $100 million? Let me look at this because I really want to make sure that as I'm talking about this, that I report this properly. And there's been so many numbers out there and so many allegations and so many cases that I want to make sure I get this right. But it was the Peacock doc that interviewed me. And it's so crazy because people are like, oh, some people were like, well, why would you do that? They're asking me about his career. I didn't even really speak about the allegations in that documentary. And one of the controversial things in the Peacock doc was that Al B. Shore did an interview, and he hasn't really spoke out a lot against Puff. But, you know, behind the scenes, we know the story. We know that Al B. Shore had a son with Kim Porter, Quincy, and that Puffy is Quincy's stepfather, and that he's raised, or let me say that he has helped to raise, right? Because there are a lot of allegations in there and a lot of claims that Al B. Shore made about why he wasn't as present in his son's life as people might have thought. So I wasn't there when they were raising him. I don't know who was there, who wasn't there, how many times he tried to help his son or maybe tried to call and couldn't. He claims in the documentary that Kim Porter told him to stay away and that it was a safety thing. So the implication was that Puffy would do something to Al B. Shore. The allegation, let me make sure I'm clear, alleges, if he were to step in certain situations. And there were statements made by him in the documentary that might, and I don't know exactly what he said. I don't want to misspeak. But it might lead people to believe that there was foul play in the death of Kim Porter. I never read the coroner's reports. I don't know. What do you guys think? I have no idea, but this is what Al B. Shore, not what he said, but these are the things that people may have been led to believe by the things that he was saying in that documentary. And I think that is where the lawsuit stems from that Diddy is filing. So I will read a little of this so we say it the right way. He's suing NBC Universal over the documentary that he says falsely accuses him of being a serial murderer who had sex with underage girls as he awaits trial on federal sex trafficking charge. That's from the Mining Journal. A spokesperson for NBC Universal. What did they say here? From his childhood to becoming a mogul, this raw look at Sean Combs' journey through exclusive footage and candid interviews explores his rise, controversies, and the man behind the music. That was the description of the documentary on Peacock's website. So Diddy is seeking no less than $100 million in damages. And I'm just kind of reading out. Okay, let's get this right. Erica Wolf, an attorney for Combs, said NBC and the other entities named in the suit were, quote, maliciously and recklessly broadcast outrageous lies in order to, quote, line their own pockets by driving viewership to the documentary. I mean, they could make that argument. Remember, you could sue anybody for anything, right? So they're saying Mr. Combs brings this lawsuit to hold defendants accountable for the extraordinary damage that their reckless statements have caused. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there right now. So I believe him filing this lawsuit is really making a statement, right? Because you're going after a conglomerate like NBC Universal. Let's see what else they say. In making and broadcasting these falsehoods, among others, defendants seek only to capitalize on the public's appetite for scandal without any regard for the truth and at the expense of Mr. Combs' right to a fair trial. This is from his attorney, Erica Wolf. I mean, if I was the attorney, I'd make that argument too, right? Like I don't think that there has been another documentary that addresses the Kim Porter scandal the way that this documentary had. So it seems to be that that is what they are basing the lawsuit on. And I don't have the complaint in front of me, but I'm sure once I read it and when TT comes back, I want to have a conversation, I think, about this because it's a question, right? Like I've heard people talk about a lot of these documentaries and whether or not they're legit. Are they true documentaries? Right? By definition of the word documentary, we don't really know because people throw that word documentary around all the time. So, I mean, having reputable journalists and producers and, and look, I've worked on some of these shows before, so I know what the rights and clearances process is like and how the lawyers have to go through the show before they put it out. And they've got to look and make sure that they've done everything that they need to do to protect themselves. So it's going to be an interesting one, I think, just to watch how this plays out. And, him being, he's still locked up in Brooklyn, him being behind bars and choosing this one, I think is interesting. I also know, because I did watch the 5-part documentary that HBO, no, let me not say HBO, is it Max? I'm not sure. Because nowadays you can watch things on different platforms. I don't know. I just go on my computer and I watch it. It's HBO Max, I believe. But that was also one that I would think damaged his reputation. But I haven't seen, and not to say that he isn't going to file, but I haven't seen a lawsuit from Diddy against that documentary or the TMZ documentary. So maybe the lawyers went through this and maybe they're setting up to file more cases against other networks and production companies way later. Or maybe there was something in the Peacock doc that the lawyers saw and were like, hold on, this is against, they can't say this. We can prove that this is false, right? Because you have to prove that it's false. So there might be something in that documentary that they caught and based the lawsuit on. But I haven't seen the lawsuit against the other docs. And look, that 5-part Diddy doc, Diddy Do It, Diddy, I don't even know all of these names, right? You got the Netflix one that's supposedly produced by 50 Cent that's coming down. I don't know when that's coming out, right? Or even what more are they going to say? Like, how many times am I going to hear about the City College thing and it's really the victim stories that I think people want to see. And that 5-part doc had a couple of victims in there that we'd never seen before, or at least we've seen them, but we didn't hear detail by detail what had happened, So I don't know. I would love to know what you guys think without coming at me online to tell me how I'm a hater just because I'm like reporting. Stop. We're just analyzing this stuff here. We love to analyze it. Everybody's a detective online, right? So we're looking at everything and trying to figure out what's real and what's not real. And I think there have been a ton of accusations, a ton of lawsuits now. I don't even know how many there are because I can't keep up. Do I think that some of these lawsuits are frivolous? Yeah, I think there are a lot of people that are just jumping in, figuring out what they can get. Do I believe that some of them could be a money grab? Yeah, but I always say, like, where there's smoke, there's fire. So, I'm looking at these cases and it just doesn't look good. We will see when the trial comes up in May. Let's let it play out. I don't know how you get, an impartial jury with all of this stuff that's out there. Everyone has seen it. Like, who are they going to interview as jurors that haven't been following what's going on? I feel like everyone's following what's going on. But speaking of these lawsuits that are being filed, and we come to the Jay-Z case, which I need some backup here. Before I talk about this, I need backup, because anything I say, you already know. So let me get some backup. The lawsuit against Jay-Z from the 13-year-old girl has been dismissed. This is the lawsuit that Tony Busby filed. Now, remember, he's filed a number of lawsuits against Puffy, or at least he's said he was going to file a number. I don't know how many he's actually filed against him. But there's just so much when it comes to this lawyer and how these things have played out. Now, that lawsuit that was filed has since been dismissed. So they call her the Jay-Z accuser. This is the Jane Doe. This is the lawsuit that everyone was like, no, he didn't do it. No, not Jay-Z. Don't, no. Relax, we're just reading the news. I heard a lot of people reporting on this, talking about how the fact that the lawsuit was dismissed wasn't covered as much as when it was filed, right? And that the damage is done, which is valid. That's a valid argument. But a lot of this is coming from people in the media, and you know how this works. When a lawsuit or accusations like that come out against someone like a Jay-Z, of course it's going to get covered by everyone all over, because people are trying to find out what it's really about. Is it true? And I believe that I said very early on, so don't do that, what you're going to do. I believe that I said, I don't believe that he did that. I know I said that. If you really want to challenge me on whether or not I said that, go dig up all of the stuff that I've done, because I spoke about that early on. I did not say that I believed that that was the case. I said I didn't know what the case was about. There were wild accusations there, but I wasn't just going to write it off just because I'm a fan of somebody. That's my point. And so the case was dismissed. Now, qualifying what I said just now, right? I just want us to think about the fact that the case, after everything, was dismissed. And that the lawyer, who everyone was going after, right? The lawyer had no comment. No comment. It's dismissed without prejudice, right? No comment. Ask yourself when that happens. When does it happen? So he had so much to say before, and now, no comment. Okay. Do I have to spell it out for you? But of course, that would be very speculatory for me to make a statement like that. But let's just say the case went away, and that's a victory for Jay-Z. That's a victory for Jay-Z. And he, a couple of days before the case against him was dismissed, right? A couple of days before that, he dropped some of the cases against Busby. Okay, are you paying attention? I hope you're paying attention. I hope you guys are really following the way that you should be following this stuff, right? Now, much like the Diddy stuff, or similar to Diddy, Jay-Z is also suing for defamation. So he's filed a defamation case against Busby for $20 million in lost deals. So he's saying, based on the damage to his reputation, right, that he lost money over it. Here's what Jay-Z said. The frivolous, fictitious, and appalling allegations have been dismissed. I'm not going to make a joke like I did because y'all out of shape, but I feel like all of these statements that he's making, he's speaking in this weird, like, I don't know, like King's English. And I don't know. I made that statement before. The lawsuit was without merit and never going anywhere. Okay, here's the interesting thing. Jay-Z claims the lawsuit was deliberately filed the night before his daughter's Blue Ivy's Mufasa, the Lion King, to force him into a no-win situation. I do think it was ironic that it was filed the night before the premiere. You know, when these cases are filed, there is strategy to it. And I know when you're trying to win or when you're trying to make a point, yeah, I could see the lawyers knowing about his big night or his daughter's big night. I'm not saying that's what happened, but I could see that, right? Like, because all of this, and I keep saying this, all of this is about media coverage, because the media is really where these type of things are being litigated. It's not just about the accusations. When you have people of power with money and they're going at each other, they usually have an agenda. And I could see the whole Busby filing the claim the day before his daughter's premiere, right? Here's what he said. And this is from Jay. I felt that Mr. Busby was placing a gun to my head that I either bow to his demands or endure personal and financial ruin. Okay. Jay-Z alleges that he lost $20 million in business contracts due to the accusations, describing the ordeal as a calculated attack on his legacy. I can see that. I can see that. The question that I always ask, though, in this type of thing is why? Why? And there's always a reason why. I don't think any of us know what the reason why is. So he's filing this suit against Busby for, I guess, lost, what do you call it? Lost deals, you know. Let's see where this case goes, because it's going to keep going. Now I feel like these two are rivals, and they're going to keep going after each other. And I wonder about that. Like, where did this rivalry come from? Why was he even looped into these cases? Don't say just for money, because he has a lot of money. It's more than that. It's more than that. Why was he even involved? There's a lot of people with a lot of money that you can go after. So that's the question that I ask all the time. But what do you guys think? Because I know that you don't think I should ever say anything about anyone that you love. And look, I want to say this because I'm a big fan, huge fan of Jay. If you've studied my career, you know, and you might not be familiar with me from back in the day, but like I'm a huge fan of Jay. So like looking at this stuff and reporting on this stuff is just that. I will say that in 2025, my favorite rapper is Kendrick Lamar. And I have said this, and all of my friends and family know this. I have Kendrick is like the most played artist in my phone. Every year at the end of the year, you know how Apple Music says, like, you've given this much amount of your life to Kendrick Lamar, right? You spent a trillion hours listening to It's always Kendrick for the last 4 or 5 years. So I'm the biggest Kendrick fan. But I said something on the last podcast, on the last episode, because I'm reporting stuff, and people were like, you're hating on Kendrick. Why are you guys so angry in the comments? Show me some love in the comments. You don't have to agree with what I'm saying. But, oh my goodness, And I get people that do support, so I want to say a shout out to the people who support. Shout out to people who call me and say, I saw the trigger warning show, whether it was on BronxNet or on my YouTube. Shout out to everyone who supports. I feel like the comments that come in from people who are just sitting online, and they're looking to be contrarian, and they're looking to just say things to oppose what you're saying. And I guess that's the engagement, right? So give me the hate too. Forget about it. I love it. Give me the hate. Give me the love. Whatever you want. Let's talk about it. I say that Kendrick is my favorite artist because I said something on the last podcast about, I think I was talking about Kendrick and Jay. No, there's no smoke for Jay. It just happens to be that he's one of the most topical people to talk about when you talk about the Super Bowl halftime show. And people were like, oh, you're trying to take away credit from Kendrick. It's my favorite thing to talk about. All I do is post memes on my IG of the Super Bowl performance. It's my favorite thing to talk about. So I love Kendrick. Shout out to him. I'm very supportive. I love the halftime show, and I love that it's been weeks later. It's been weeks since the halftime show, but I'm still looking at it online. I love when something can have such an impact that it's able to sustain for weeks and weeks on the internet. Love that. So anyway, I feel like I'm running out of time because I went off on these tangents, but I gotta talk about Kendrick and Jay and and Puff and Diddy, because this is what is going on in the space right now. But, I also talked about my wax, so I feel like you should appreciate that. It's not just about these high-profile stories and what's kind of taking over the internet. It can also be about waxing yourself. What else was going on? There's so much, and I had written things down, but I'm kind of like, do I really want to talk about the Cardi B thing? So I'll talk about it a little bit. Looked like Cardi had a nice Valentine's Day, right? What do you guys think about this new relationship that she's supposedly in with Stephon Diggs? What do you guys think? Do you like him for her? I like the comeback. I like that she's out there. I love that, we've seen her relationship with Offset. We've been following that. It's been tumultuous. Is tumultuous a good word to describe their relationship? It's kind of been all over the media. I think they were a high-profile celebrity couple that people love to watch. And they're both entertaining, I will say that. But when the relationship started to, I guess, go south, that's probably not a good way to describe it. But when the relationship started to take a turn for the worse, the way that it played out was so toxic. So I think that's when people were like, okay, it would be toxic, but then she would have a baby. Toxic, but then you're having a baby. So it's kind of like, okay, this isn't good for anyone. So when you're done and you say you're done and you go online and you profess that, people don't want to really see you get back because they're now invested in this new story that you've put out there of the breakup. And I think people were waiting for Cardi to move on. So I kind of can appreciate what she's doing. Showing her Valentine. Looked like she had a nice Valentine's Day. Good for her. I mean, I'm sure, has he been out in the public with someone else? I think I'm probably not up to date, right? It says Cardi was spotted. I feel like the video I saw was her. She was looking for something in the car. But who's taking the video when this is going on? Who was actually taking the video? Oh, it looked like someone from afar, maybe, because TMZ got it, and then, maybe they, zoomed in on her. It says Cardi's dress is clinging to her frame. There wasn't really much there, other than they got back to the hotel around 1:54 a.m., so they were out for Valentine's Day. Good for them. Is she still waiting for the divorce from Offset? Cardi did say that she wanted Offset to get hit by a bus. Did I miss this? Gosh, guys, I got to come with my information. That said, a couple months after her filing for divorce, Cardi, this is what TMZ is reporting, Cardi said that she did say she wanted Offset to get hit by a bus. I mean, well, that was mean. But I've been there. I've been there. I don't think you want anything to happen to your kid's father, but I've been there. So I understand sometimes you say things you might not mean it. So her and Stephon Diggs is looking like a new little celebrity couple. I know we remember when he was spotted with, I think, Young Miami. Is that true? Oh, well, Stephon is getting out there, I see. But, you know, this is part of the game when you're at that level. It's not just about your talent or your music. This media circus keeps money in people's pockets. So they gotta do that. I'm not saying they don't like each other, because they're in the same world, right? So they gotta be helping seeing each other out and talking, but getting spotted and becoming the new, what's the name gonna be for Cardi and Stephon? Carfon? I don't know. One of the things I didn't talk about that I knew I wanted to talk about is all these plane crashes. What's really going on? So the Delta plane that was turned over in Toronto really freaked me out. The good thing was that everyone survived so far. This just happened recently. So I know that 2 people, I believe, are in critical condition. One was a child. 3 people were like seriously injured. There were other injuries as well. But, praise the Lord, everyone so far has survived. But they got footage of this. That's the other thing. So all this stuff is happening. And now with the cameras, right? When the plane went down in Philadelphia a couple of weeks ago, I freaked out because it was within 15 minutes of where my sister lived, and I couldn't get her on the phone. And there's all this footage of this plane just crashing into the street. Is this the first time where I don't ever remember this many accidents, plane accidents, since I've been alive? I've heard of tragedies. I've heard of, we remember some of obviously the big one was 9/11, but that was an act of terrorism, right? I'm talking about just accidents so frequently. The plane and the weather was bad, and I don't like flying in bad weather, but it wasn't like a terrible blizzard, to my knowledge. I know they said weather conditions were bad for flying, and I don't know a thing about the flying weather conditions, right? But we've had worse weather, and these planes have been taking off and landing. What is going on? Now, look, Trump took office in January. Planes are falling out of the sky. I'm just saying. I know people are going to be like, oh, how do you connect that? Just based off of the DEI stuff they were saying. I don't know. I don't know. The simple answer is I don't know, but it's crazy. I'm looking up in the sky every time a plane is flying over, is that plane going to come down? It's insane. So if you're flying, be safe. If you're flying in a small jet, I would say don't fly in bad weather. I know I'm going to be cautious. I don't have any plans to fly soon, but I fly all the time. I'm a little freaked out about flying right now. That just happened. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, yet another accident. And everyone has their camera out. And then there's so many different angles of these planes. So it almost feels like people know it's about to happen. Like, who just kind of like has their phone out and is like taking footage of the plane? Like, we're getting all these angles of, I don't know. Don't call me a conspiracy theorist. It's a lot going on. Oh, another thing that I saw before I came in today was 50 Cent posting about the comments that Joe Budden made on his podcast against 50. So Joe Budden, on the Joe Budden podcast, and his, podcasts, co-podcasters, whatever you call them, they spoke about 50 commenting on Irv Gotti's death. And I believe what Joe said was that 50 Cent needs therapy. And so 50, of course, took that screenshot of Joe and decided he was going to post him and say, I don't know what he said, but in true 50 fashion, he said what he said. Sparking debate or engagement probably from people. Sometimes I'm like, I don't even think it's real smoke that he has for people. I just think he's putting it online because that's part of his business. Part of his business is trolling. So if Joe Budden, who has one of the biggest platforms in the hip hop space, is going to make these comments about something you did, and look, everyone's like, oh, we listen and we don't judge. No, everybody's judging. Everybody's judging online. And so Joe had this debate with his co-host, and they were talking about whether it was right or wrong, or they were making the arguments of why 50 would say the things that he said in light of or after the passing of Irv Gotti. And I think a lot of people felt like it was insensitive. But for Joe to say something, I guess that got under 50 Cent's skin, and he posted about it. So now the latest thing is that these two are going back and forth. Well, not back and forth, because I haven't heard Joe's response to 50 posting him. But I'm sure he likes it. Why wouldn't he? That's what they do it for, the engagement. Like, I was just sitting on here thinking about that, right? I was like, why is everyone coming at me? I love Kendrick. Don't say, I just made a comment. But actually, that's how you get the engagement. When people disagree with you and they comment, you get the engagement. And I think that that's what 50 Cent is doing. So I don't think when he posts about someone, there really is that much smoke. I think he feels like he's required to do these things. Because what other topics is he going to talk about? So he's fresh off of the heels of the stuff with Meech. Because a week or two ago, it was 50 and Meech going at each other. And I guess that died down a little bit, right? People said that was the conversation online. It's all about the conversation online. Our attention is all like, what do you guys think about that? It's like all of our attention is on the same things, right? Kanye decides he wants to do this rant, everybody's talking about it. 50 Cent goes at Meech, everyone's talking about it. But that was last week. So what is he gonna do? Who's talking about me? What are people saying about me? Oh, Joe Budden's talking about me, big platform. You know what? I would bet that he's not gonna necessarily post someone and give them that shine if they don't have a big enough following. So it's all about the egos and these guys going at each other, but driving engagement and conversation online, which in turn is upping their numbers. So they'll take the stats from what they're doing and they go monetize it. So he's monetizing trolling. So of course he said something about Joe Budden. So the two of them went back. I keep saying back and forth. We're waiting to see what Joe says, but he went back and forth with his co-hosts on it because of course people on his podcast, some of them were taking the position of, look, if you got beef with someone and they pass away, is this smoke forever? Or does the beef die when you die? And Joe was saying when someone passes, that the beef is over. If he has problems with anybody and they pass, it's over. I don't know. I think it's a little bit much when people pass and you're like, I don't speak ill of the dead, and I think that that's a rule that I know in Jewish religion I was told that when somebody passes, it's like it's a certain amount of time that you have to let go before you can say anything negative. I guess that's some sort of religious belief for some people, maybe not just in Jewish tradition, but I live by a code like that. Similarly, like, I'm not going to speak about someone when they pass. But the other side of that argument is that the beef never dies if someone tries to kill you, and I don't think we've ever, how do I say, I don't think we've ever confirmed, right, that this person was trying to kill him, but that's what the internet runs with. That's what everyone says. Oh, well, they had beef, he got shot 9 times or 8 times. I can't even remember. But who said that anyone was responsible for shooting him? That was never proven. So, you got to watch what you say out here on these internet streets. Anyway, that is the conversation probably for the next couple of days. I had a lot more to talk about, but I guess I must have went off on something because I really would have loved to have a fun conversation about my favorite internet sensation this month, Onija, who was arrested in Dubai. Does anyone know where she is right now? Please tell me where Onija is. I want to know where she's at. I haven't seen her as much on my timeline this week. I'd rather see what she's doing in Dubai, or I think that I saw something posted that she was back in New York. Is that true? Have we seen Onija here? Where is she? Because now I'm starting to believe the Dubai stuff, because if she was arrested, maybe that's why we're not hearing from her. I feel like she got to keep this reality show going. I'm waiting to see her next move. What Middle Eastern country are you visiting next? I would love to see that, but I haven't seen anything. So hopefully she's okay. Hopefully she was not arrested, but I think I did see that online. You can't believe everything you see online. Make sure you guys, fact check everything. But was this like therapy? Was I talking crazy today, guys? There's so much going on. Take care of your health. Shout out to, I saw also that Casey of the group Jodeci was hospitalized. So hopefully, he gets well. People have to take care of their health. Please take care of your health. We're losing a lot of people out here. I'm starting to wrap things up quickly. I don't have a lot of time. We'll be back, but I just want to say, everyone, thank you. Thank you for checking in, for staying tuned in. I'm Kim Osorio. Take care of yourself. Take care of your health. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at Kim Osorio1, and subscribe to my YouTube and give me all the smoke. I'm at Kim Osorio Media. Give it all to me. I want it all. Thanks for checking in to the Trigger Warning Podcast. See you next time.